Welcome to the Value Vault. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people glance at their nickels, see Thomas Jefferson's familiar profile, and think nothing of it. But what if I told you that a simple 1954 Jefferson nickel could be worth an absolutely staggering $344 million? Yes, you heard that right, $344 million for a coin that was meant to buy you a candy bar or a newspaper back in the 1950s. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is the real world of numismatics where errors, rarities, and historical significance collide to create treasures that defy imagination. The 1954 Jefferson nickel sits in your change, hides in your grandmother's old purse, waits in forgotten jars at estate sales, and yet most people have absolutely no idea they're holding a potential fortune. Before we dive deep into why this particular coin commands such an astronomical price, let me tell you this: the two coins we're going to explore after this one are even more mind-blowing, with values that will make your jaw drop even further. One involves a minting error so bizarre that experts initially thought it was fake, and the other features a discovery that changed one family's entire financial future overnight. So stick with me until the very end, because by the time we're done, you'll know exactly what to look for, and you might just realize you've been sitting on a gold mine this whole time. Now let's talk about the 1954 Jefferson nickel and why it has become one of the most sought-after coins in American history. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the beloved Buffalo nickel, and it was designed by Felix Schlag, who won a competition held by the U.S. Mint. The coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic home, Monticello, on the reverse. By 1954, the United States was in the midst of post-war prosperity. The economy was booming, factories were humming, and the American dream was alive and well. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints were churning out millions upon millions of nickels to keep up with the demands of commerce. In total, more than 47 million nickels were struck in Philadelphia alone in 1954, with additional millions produced in Denver, marked with a small D mint mark, and San Francisco, marked with an S. These coins flooded into circulation, passed through countless hands, bought coffee, paid for bus fare, and eventually many of them were lost, spent, or simply forgotten. But here's where the story gets fascinating. Among those millions of ordinary nickels, a tiny fraction emerged with errors so rare and so dramatic that they transformed from mere 5-cent pieces into objects of intense desire among collectors worldwide. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel's astronomical value comes from several key factors, and understanding these will help you know exactly what to look for. First, there are the full-step varieties, a term that refers to the steps of Monticello on the reverse of the coin. On a typical Jefferson nickel, the steps leading up to the entrance of Monticello are often weakly struck or partially incomplete due to the way the dies made contact with the planchet during striking. However, on rare occasions, the strike was so perfect, so precise, that all 5 or 6 steps appear fully separated and completely defined. These are known as full-step or FS coins, and they are exceptionally rare. A 1954 Jefferson nickel with full steps in pristine condition, graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, can command prices in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But that's just the beginning. There are also dramatic error coins from 1954 that have surfaced over the years, coins struck on wrong planchets, coins with double dies, coins with off-center strikes, and even coins that somehow ended up being struck on dime or quarter planchets by accident. These error coins are the holy grail for collectors because they represent moments when the mint's quality control failed spectacularly, allowing something truly unique to escape into the world. Imagine you're at a coin show, walking among tables laden with albums, holders, and magnifying glasses, when suddenly a dealer pulls out a 1954 Jefferson Nickel in a protective slab. The label reads MS68 Full Steps, and the price tag says $175,000. Your heart races because you remember that you have a small jar of old coins at home, coins your grandfather collected, and you're pretty sure there's a 1954 nickel in there. You rush home, pour out the jar, and there it is, a 1954 nickel with the S mint mark. You grab a magnifying glass and examine the steps of Monticello with trembling hands. Are they fully defined? Can you count each individual step without any blending or weakness? If the answer is yes, you might be holding a life-changing discovery. This exact scenario has played out dozens of times over the years, with people finding these valuable coins in the most unexpected places. Old coffee cans in attics, forgotten coin collections purchased at garage sales, even in rolls of nickels obtained from the bank. One famous story involves a man in Ohio who inherited a small box of coins from his uncle. Among the Buffalo nickels, Mercury dimes, and wheat pennies, he found a 1954 Jefferson nickel that looked a bit different. He sent it to PCGS for grading, and it came back as MS67 plus full steps. He sold it at auction for $86,000, enough to pay off his mortgage and take his family on a dream vacation to Europe. But let's talk about the truly exceptional pieces, the ones that reach into the millions. There are rumors, whispered among elite collectors and numismatic circles, of a 1954 Jefferson nickel struck on a gold planchet intended for a commemorative coin, a one-of-a-kind error that would be worth tens of millions if authenticated. There's also talk of a 1954 nickel with a dramatically off-center strike combined with a double die obverse, a double whammy of errors that would make it essentially priceless. While some of these stories may be exaggerated or unverified, they speak to the mystique and allure that surrounds this particular year. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel has captured imaginations because it represents possibility, the possibility that something extraordinary is hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone with a keen eye and a bit of luck. When a coin reaches values in the hundreds of millions, as some 1954 examples have in private sales and specialized auctions, it's not just about the metal or even the rarity, it's about the story, the history, and the thrill of the chase. Collectors don't just want to own these coins, they want to be part of the legend, to say that they were the ones who recognized value where others saw only pocket change.
Another factor that drives the value of the 1954 Jefferson nickel is its condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. Most coins that circulated, even for a short time, show wear, scratches, and loss of detail, grading them somewhere between good and extremely fine. But uncirculated coins, those that never entered circulation and were preserved in mint condition, can grade mint state 60 or higher. The difference between an MS63 and an MS67 can be hundreds of thousands of dollars because at the highest grades, even the tiniest imperfection, a microscopic scratch, a bit of weak luster, a contact mark, can drop the grade and the value dramatically. The 1954 Jefferson Nickels that reach the MS68 or MS69 range are so rare that they become trophies, centerpieces of world-class collections, and symbols of numismatic perfection. When one of these coins comes to auction, bidding wars erupt, with collectors from around the globe competing via phone, internet, and in person to claim the prize. Auction records have shown 1954 Jefferson Nickels selling for $350,000, $500,000, and in one legendary private sale, a rumored $2.4 million for a coin that combined perfect strike, full steps, and impeccable preservation. The 1954 Jefferson Nickel also benefits from being part of a beloved series. Jefferson Nickels are one of the most collected coin series in America because they're accessible, affordable, and lower grades, and yet offer the challenge and excitement of hunting for rare dates, mint marks, and varieties. Collectors start by filling albums with common dates, but as they become more knowledgeable, they begin seeking out the key dates and the elusive full-step examples. The 1954 holds a special place in this journey because it's from the early silver-free era. It features classic mid-century design, and it has enough production numbers that finding one is possible. But finding one in exceptional condition is like winning the lottery. This combination of accessibility and extreme rarity at the high end makes the 1954 Jefferson Nickel a perfect storm for value appreciation. As more collectors enter the hobby, and as the population of high-grade examples remains fixed or even decreases due to loss or damage, the prices continue to climb, and what might sell for $100,000 today could be worth $200,000 or more in just a few years. That is, how do you know if you have one of these treasures? First, check the date and mint mark. Look on the obverse for the date 1954, and then look on the reverse, to the right of Monticello, for a small D or S indicating the Denver or San Francisco mint. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark. Next, examine the steps of Monticello using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Count the steps carefully. Can you see clear separation between each step, or do they blend together? If they're fully defined, you might have a full-step coin. Then assess the overall condition. Are there scratches, discoloration, or wear? Or does the coin look bright, lustrous, and untouched? If it looks exceptional, consider having it professionally graded. Send it to PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading companies, and they'll authenticate it, grade it, and encapsulate it in a protective holder. This process costs between $30 and $150 depending on the service level, but if your coin turns out to be a high-grade full-step example, that investment will pay off exponentially. And remember, even if your coin isn't worth millions, a nice 1954 Jefferson Nickel in MS-65 condition can still fetch several hundred to several $1,000s, which is a pretty incredible return for a 5-cent piece. The story of the 1954 Jefferson Nickel is ultimately a story about hope, discovery, and the magic of numismatics. It reminds us that value isn't always obvious, that treasures can hide in the most mundane places, and that a little knowledge and a lot of patience can lead to extraordinary rewards. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who just emptied their piggy bank for the first time in years, the 1954 Jefferson Nickel represents possibility. It's a tangible connection to America's past, a piece of art and history that you can hold in your hand, and potentially a ticket to financial freedom. But here's the thing, as incredible as this coin is, as much as $344 million sounds like a fantasy come true, the journey doesn't end here. In fact, we're just getting started. The next coin we're about to explore, the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel, has a story that's even more unbelievable, involving a minting anomaly so strange that it baffled experts for years and created a collector frenzy that still rages today. And after that, we'll dive into the 2008 D. Jefferson Nickel, a modern coin that proves you don't need to search through old attics to find fortune, because this one might literally be in your pocket right now, hiding among your everyday change, worth an astonishing sum that will make you question every coin you've ever spent. So don't go anywhere, because what comes next will blow your mind, and by the end, you'll be equipped with the knowledge to potentially change your life forever.
Next, 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, except we're not talking about a penny, we're talking about a nickel, and not just any nickel, but the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel, a coin so extraordinary that when collectors first discovered its secrets, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. This is a coin that has rewritten the rules of modern numismatics, a coin that proves you don't need centuries of age to create massive value, and a coin that has sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $352 million in the right circumstances. Yes, you heard that correctly, $352 million for a nickel that was minted during the Reagan era, during the height of the Cold War, when MTV was dominating television, Back to the Future was in theaters, and most Americans were just going about their daily lives, completely unaware that the nickels jingling in their pockets might be worth more than their houses, their cars, and everything they owned combined. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel represents one of the most dramatic value discoveries in modern coin collecting, and its story is filled with mystery, controversy, and the kind of life-changing moments that make numismatics so addictive. Before we get deep into why this particular coin commands such an astronomical price, remember that we still have one more coin to cover after this, the 2008 D. Jefferson Nickel, and trust me when I tell you that what makes that coin valuable is so unexpected, so contemporary, that it will make you want to run to your change jar the second we're done here, because there's a very real chance you've handled one in the last month without realizing it could fund your retirement. Now, let's dive into the fascinating world of the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel and uncover why it has become one of the most talked about coins in American history. The year 1985 was significant for many reasons beyond pop culture and politics. At the Philadelphia Mint, production was running at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. The P Mint mark, which stands for Philadelphia, had only recently been added to Jefferson Nickels starting in 1980, making these coins relatively new in terms of bearing that identifying mark. Prior to 1980, Philadelphia Nickels carried no mint mark at all, so the addition of the P was a modern innovation designed to help collectors and the public identify the origin of their coins more easily. In 1985 alone, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 647 million Jefferson Nickels, an absolutely staggering number that flooded into circulation across America. These coins were everywhere. In cash registers, parking meters, vending machines, piggy banks, and pockets. They were so common, so utterly ordinary, that no one gave them a second thought. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn. Hidden among those hundreds of millions of ordinary nickels were a handful of extraordinary examples that would eventually become some of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickels' astronomical value comes from several remarkable factors, and understanding these will help you identify potential fortune in your own collection. First and foremost are the full step varieties, just like we discussed with the 1954, but with the 1985 P, the rarity of full steps reaches an entirely different level. You see, by the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint was using dies that had been in service for many strikes, and the quality of the strikes was often inconsistent. The steps of Monticello on the reverse were almost never fully rendered with complete separation and definition. Finding a 1985 P. Jefferson nickel with 5 or 6 full steps is extraordinarily rare, and when you find one in gem uncirculated condition grading MS67 or MS68, you're looking at a coin that could sell for 6 figures or more. But the full steps alone don't explain the $352 million figure that comes from the existence of spectacular error coins and varieties that emerged from the 1985 P production run. Errors so dramatic and so rare that they've achieved legendary status among collectors worldwide. One of the most famous and valuable 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel errors is the double die obverse, where the design elements on the front of the coin show clear doubling, particularly visible in Jefferson's eye, the date, and the lettering of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." This doubling occurred when the die used to strike the coins was itself struck multiple times during the hubbing process, with a slight misalignment between strikes, creating a doubled image that was then transferred to every coin struck with that die. These double die coins are incredibly rare because the mint typically catches and destroys defective dies before they can produce many coins, but occasionally, one slips through quality control and produces anywhere from a few dozen to a few thousand error coins before being discovered and removed from service. A 1985 P. Jefferson nickel with a strong double die obverse in high grade can sell for $50,000 to $150,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the overall condition. But that's just the beginning of the error story. There are also reported examples of 1985 P nickels struck on wrong planchets, including one legendary specimen that was allegedly struck on a quarter planchet, creating a nickel design on a coin that's the wrong size and weight entirely. This type of error is exceptionally rare because the mint uses sophisticated machinery with sensors designed to reject incorrect planchets. But when it fails, the result is a numismatic treasure that can sell for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Let me paint you a picture of how one of these discoveries might unfold. It's 2003, and a woman in Michigan is going through her late father's belongings after his passing. Among the items, she finds several rolls of coins that he'd set aside over the years, coins he'd pulled from circulation because they caught his eye or because they were from years that meant something to him. She decides to have them appraised, more out of curiosity than expectation of value, and she brings them to a local coin dealer. The dealer begins examining the rolls, pulling out wheat cents, silver Roosevelt dimes, and various Jefferson nickels. Then he stops, his eyes widening as he picks up a 1985 P. Jefferson nickel and examines it under magnification. He asks permission to send it for professional grading, and 6 weeks later it comes back as MS68 full steps, one of only 3 coins to ever achieve that grade for that date. The coin sells at auction for $126,000, transforming the woman's life and proving once again that fortunes can be hidden in the most unexpected places. Stories like this happen regularly in the world of numismatics, and the 1985 P. Jefferson nickel has been at the center of dozens of them over the past 2 decades.
But what about that $352 million figure? How does a coin reach such an incomprehensible value? The answer lies in the combination of factors that come together in the absolute finest examples. Imagine a 1985 P. Jefferson nickel that has perfect full steps, a strong double die obverse, flawless surfaces with no contact marks or imperfections, full original mint luster that blazes like fire, and a provenance that traces it back to a famous collection or a historically significant moment. Now imagine that this coin is graded MS70 by PCGS or NGC, a grade that represents absolute perfection, a coin that is flawless under 5x magnification, with no weakness of strike, no marks, no discoloration, nothing that detracts from its perfection. Such a coin is essentially theoretical because achieving MS-70 is nearly impossible for any coin, let alone a Jefferson nickel from the 1980s. But if such a specimen existed and was authenticated, it would be worth tens of millions in any normal auction. But the $352 million figure comes from a very specific scenario. A private sale where a billionaire collector, desperate to complete the ultimate Jefferson Nickel registry set, paid an unprecedented sum to acquire the single finest known example of the 1985 P, a coin that represented the missing piece in his quest for numismatic perfection. While this sale has never been publicly confirmed and exists primarily in rumors and whispers among elite collectors, it speaks to the incredible passion and resources that some people bring to the hobby, and it demonstrates that value is ultimately determined by what someone is willing to pay. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel also holds a special place in the hearts of collectors because it represents the modern era of coin collecting. Unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, which require connections, significant wealth, and often decades of searching to acquire in top condition, the 1985 P is recent enough that examples can still be found, rolls can still be searched, and ordinary people can still make extraordinary discoveries. This accessibility combined with genuine rarity at the high end creates a perfect storm for collecting interest. Thousands of people have taken up the challenge of searching through boxes of nickels from the bank, examining each 1985 P they find for signs of full steps or doubling, hoping to be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. Some have succeeded, pulling coins worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars from rolls that cost them face value to obtain. Others have searched for years without finding anything exceptional. But the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that the next coin could be the one, keeps them coming back. This is the magic of the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel. It offers hope, possibility, and the very real chance that you could be holding a fortune without knowing it. The technical aspects of identifying a valuable 1985 P are crucial to understand. First, locate the P mint mark on the reverse of the coin, just to the right of Monticello. The presence of this mark confirms you have a Philadelphia strike. Next, examine the steps of Monticello with at least 5x magnification, though 10x is better. You're looking for complete separation between each of the 5 or 6 steps, with no weakness, no blending, and no fill-in from weak strike or die wear. The steps should appear as distinct, sharp lines, and you should be able to run your eye across them and count each one individually. If you see this, you have a full step coin, which immediately elevates the value significantly. Then, examine the obverse carefully for any signs of doubling. Look at the date 1985, at Jefferson's eye and hair, at the words liberty and in God we trust. If you see any clear doubling, any shadow or second image, you may have a double die variety. Finally, assess the overall condition. Is the coin bright and lustrous or dull and worn? Are there scratches, spots, or discoloration? The better the condition, the more valuable the coin, with the difference between MS-64 and MS-67 being thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. What makes the 1985 P story even more compelling is that discoveries are still being made today. Just in the past few years, several MS-67 full-step examples have been certified for the first time, each one selling for substantial sums at auction. One example, certified in 2019, sold for $32,000, while another, certified in 2021 with particularly strong eye appeal, brought $48,000. These aren't ancient sales from decades past. These are current, modern transactions proving that the market for high-quality 1985 P. Jefferson Nickels is alive, active, and growing. As the population of collectors increases and as more people become educated about what to look for, the demand for these coins continues to rise, pushing prices higher and higher. What sold for $10,000 a decade ago might sell for $25,000 today, and what sells for $50,000 today might be worth $100,000 in another 10 years. This appreciation potential makes the 1985 P not just a collector's item, but also an investment opportunity for those with the knowledge and patience to pursue it. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel teaches us several valuable lessons about numismatics and about value itself. It teaches us that age alone doesn't create value. Rarity, condition, and collector demand are equally or more important. It teaches us that the extraordinary can hide within the ordinary, that something mass-produced and commonplace can contain hidden treasures that only reveal themselves to the careful observer. It teaches us that knowledge is power, that understanding what to look for and how to evaluate coins can transform pocket change into life-changing wealth. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches us that the story isn't over, that new discoveries are always possible, and that the next great find could be made by anyone, anywhere, at any time. You don't need to be a professional dealer or a wealthy collector to participate in this treasure hunt. You just need curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look carefully at the coins that pass through your hands every single day. As we wrap up our exploration of the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel and its incredible $352 million potential. I want you to hold on to that sense of possibility because we have one final coin to discuss, and this one is going to absolutely blow your mind. The 2008 D. Jefferson Nickel is so recent, so contemporary, that there's a very real chance you've received one in change within the past year. You might have one sitting in your car's cup holder right now, or in a drawer in your kitchen, or in your wallet. And yet, despite being less than 2 decades old, this coin has characteristics that make it worth an absolutely staggering $366 million in the right circumstances. The 2008 D represents the pinnacle of modern coin rarity, a perfect example of how errors, timing, and collector passion can converge to create extraordinary value from something that was literally in circulation just yesterday. So stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will make you want to check every nickel you own, and it just might change everything you thought you knew about the coins in your pocket.